Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Seven Book Club. We have some major news for those who've been following us and for those who haven't. As you know, we started with a project called Seven Interactive as soon as with the outbreak of the pandemic. And it was our goal to mitigate the effects that we were all experiencing, being that those of being isolated, out of touch with each other. And the idea was to create a space where we will share a quality content and hopefully spark conversation, dialogue, share knowledge, and somehow navigate through all the noise that's being produced during this year of pandemic. So what started as Seven Interactive became Seven Insider, and it's happening across platform, meaning it involves seven photo agencies, seven academies, seven foundation. So we just launched a new website, and I'm gonna quickly share for all of you who haven't seen it. Here it is. It's, let me just kill the sound. I'm just gonna show you quickly what we have. We have variety of content. Some of it, a lot of it is for free. A lot of it is what we call freemium, meaning that you have to be registered user, but still have access to events such as the book club. And then we also have paid content, which is part of our premium package. So I would encourage you to check it out. As you can see, the calendar is already heavily populated, but there's more to come, and it includes talks such as this one, Seven Book Club. It involves lectures, it involves one-on-one sessions, it involves technical seminars where we will speak about technology and so on. And it involves both people from Seven ecosystem, but also people who we admire and appreciate. So that's in brief what's going on with us. We used to stream on Facebook as well, but we stopped that because we want to be more focused on a dedicated, registered group of people. So for now, we are limiting everything to Zoom events. And here at the book club, we talk about books we like and with people we respect. And today we have with us Danny Wilcox Frazier, our dear friend from Seven Photo Agency, and we're going to talk about, well, he's going to talk and we're going to talk, and you feel free to ask questions in a Q&A box. We're going to talk about his book, Driftless. And before starting and before handing over to Danny, I just want to say this definitely is not America that I know. Now, I'm not American, but I've traveled often to America and I've seen a lot of it. But definitely this book is not what I've seen. And I guess that's what I really appreciate about this book. It really showed me the side of America that I didn't know. And with all the Trump and now change of power, everyone's talking about this America, that America. So I think it might be a nice way to also talk about that. And for the first time, we actually have another guest, Gabriel, who's here with us, who is actually part of the book, who back, I think 14 years ago, was photographed by Danny. Danny photographed his family at the farm. And so that was 14 years ago, back in the day when Gabriel was a boy, and now he's a man. And I think it's quite unique to have a subject, a photograph of a book and also documentary film that Danny made, and which was produced by MediaStorm, to have it now back with us, especially after such a period of time. I think that's very rare and uncommon for photographers. We usually either parachute somewhere, spend period of time, take pictures, and unfortunately, we rarely get to see people we photographed and spent time, broke bread, and so on. So Danny, if you don't mind, I'm gonna play a few minutes of the documentary, which, by the way, people, I'm gonna post a link here in the chat room, which you can see on MediaStorm. And we're gonna play a few minutes. It's a 30 minutes long piece, but we're going to play just a few opening minutes, which also concern our friend Gabriel. So just give me a second to share a screen here. Here it is. Okay. We just play full screen, which for some reason it doesn't want to do. For some reason it's not playing full screen. I don't know why.
The farm has been close to my heart all my life. To me, a farm is just a good place to be.
This is the farm that she grew up on. We've been here now for 18 years. I always felt that someone that's raised on a farm, they can almost do anything. I just feel like that's a real good training place for young people.
Sometimes you wish you were older, that way you wouldn't have to get all the orders and you could give some orders too.
After I'm out of school, I plan on staying on the farm for at least a couple years. And then I want to go to college, and I really do not know exactly what I want to do yet, but I'm hoping maybe scientist of some sort.
We always had younger children to help us here on the farm, which worked out pretty good. We had their income to subsidize, which helped. So then as the children got older and left home, clump of hay over there, we didn't have that income anymore. Last year was horrible. The milk prices were lower than they've almost ever been, I think. And so when you figure the price of gas, food, equipment, repairs, and all that, you just don't make it in a year like that.
I work at another job for Colonial Oil for a little over a year now, just for some more income.
We had a pretty big debt to, or we have a pretty big debt to undo. Kevin had graduated from high school, so he was here to sort of take on the farming responsibilities.
It's what I like to do. I like working with animals, I like operating machinery, and it's just something I enjoy. It's 5, 6 in the morning until 9, 10 at night, and you don't really have much time to relax and just take it easy. It's a lot of responsibility right now that I'm not sure I want.
I would hope that out of 9 children, that one of them would have a desire to take the farm on, and that's our goal. But I guess it doesn't have to be if it doesn't work out. So.
It's something each generation strives to improve, to let a farm go that my grandparents have struggled to build, and my parents have struggled to build. It just don't seem right. I'm not ready for it now, but if it would come to the point where we'd either let it go or I would keep going, I'd probably try to keep it going, even though I don't think I'm ready for it. It's just I don't know if I want to let it go.
You know, we're trying to do what we can to keep things going here. As a parent, you want your children to be happy. You want them to enjoy what they're doing. But sometimes that's easier said than done. I really don't know how my feelings would be if it wouldn't work out. It's close to my heart. It would be difficult. But, you know, life isn't all easy. You want to take it however it comes.
This is the part you wanted to show. So I think there's no better introduction to Driftless than this piece of video, Danny. So here we are, 14 years later. Gabriel is here with us. So where are we at? What happened to farm? What happened to Stutzman's? What happened to Iowa? And for that matter, to the America? So Danny.
So I think that'd be great for Gabriel, actually, Zia, to jump in on and let us all know. Those were the questions, from all those years ago, and I think it's important to hear directly from Gabe.
So that was, I think that was all shot in about 06. That year, later in the year, the chickens, you saw me doing the chickens there. We quit doing those and put the rest of our time into the cows and the land and stuff. We continued doing that for another 3 years, and then we just decided it wasn't going to make it doing the dairy, and so we let the cows go, kept the farm. At that point, at that point in 09, we rented the land out to a neighbor who was a farmer. He farmed the ground for some years. My brother Kevin, he moved to South Carolina, started working construction. So he's still in South Carolina doing construction. He does high-end trim carpentry stuff on big mansions and stuff, high $1-million homes and stuff. For Dad, they moved to my grandma's house, which is just across the road from the home farm there. Myself and my wife bought the main homestead, and I am working as a mechanic. I have been since I quit since I was out of high school. Basically in 13, I started full time, and I've been doing that ever since. So,
And you
man,
all
that
have
brings
2 little ones too, right, Gabe?
Yeah, we have 2 little ones. I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 1.5-year-old son, and they are a bundle of energy. Goodness gracious. They keep me busy, but it looks a lot different right now, the farm. That barn you saw all the calves in, that building is gone. The building you saw the chickens in, that building is gone. It's kind of, I don't know, it doesn't look like a farm anymore. The animals are gone.
So how does it feel to you to see this flashback into your life? I mean, I don't know I don't know what was the last time you saw it, but now seeing it from a distance.
It's been some time since I've seen it, and I don't know. I'm kind of sad. I will tell you, when I was back there, I hated it. I didn't hate it because I didn't like the lifestyle as much. I hated it because I don't know, being in school. So what my life was like, I was up at 4:30 in the morning, did all the chores. We get done by about 7:30, 7:45 with just enough time to take a shower and head off to school. School goes until 3 o'clock. We get home. I've got about an hour or so to eat a snack or whatever, and then it's chore time again. Chore time goes until 7:30 again, and then if there's any activities that night, you don't get any homework done. I usually still had a big stack of homework to do yet, and it was 10 o'clock till I got to bed. And doing that all the time, you can't ever stop because the cows don't stop. So it's not like you can just take a break for a couple of days. The way it is now, I still work a lot. I keep a big garden, and we still have the hogs, so I still have plenty of work to do. But if I get wore out, I just stop for a week and I just do the bare minimum, and that's not that much.
Gabe,
Yeah, go ahead.
you know, that's the thing that from the first time I was on the farm that impressed me so much about all you and your brother Carlin as well, who you told me now is an engineer up in Cedar Rapids at Collins Aerospace, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And you know, just that work ethic that you all have. But I think the difficulty that I found in being, you know, an observer of that hard work is the economic insecurity that your mom and dad talked about. The fact that y'all were working those kind of hours, and that's 7 days a week, because the cows don't take the weekend off. You all were working on the weekend as well, those same hours. You know, the payoff was it wasn't there. You all were barely making it. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then we've talked about, you know, just all these dairy operations that were south of where I live, Iowa City. So in the Kelowna area, Frytown area where you're at, you know, all those dairy farms most of them have disappeared. Can you just talk about that economic side a little bit?
Can I just sorry, Gabriel. I mean, I know about difficulties of farmers anywhere in the world, but I have to say, it does come as a surprise, because we're talking about America, about the most powerful country in the world, the largest economy, or one of the largest economies. It's just, I didn't expect that. I don't expect to hear such stories of I guess we can say hardship, of people working their, you know, back off and still struggling to make ends meet. So anyway, so that's just before Gabriel. So yeah.
Yeah, so I've never studied economics or anything, and I'm not sure how all that stuff works. I'm not sure what drives the markets, and all that, but it is hard. And I have a good friend that is still doing a dairy, and he has said, you know, farmers are the only people that work their tail off, and then they don't get to say how much they get paid for it. Hang on just a minute.
So everyone, Gabriel's at work.
Exactly. So we only had Gabriel for 20 minutes, right? Danny, would you mind diving into some of the images that you picked from Driftless?
Yeah. And then when he comes back, he can continue.
Exactly.
Okay, so if you all can let me, all right, wait, sorry.
He's back.
All right, I'm back, sort of.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Gabriel.
So I have a good friend that he was just saying, you know, farmers are the only people you can think of that they don't get to say how much they get paid for their products. You know, the markets set the price, and like I'm a mechanic, and you know, if I if someone brings me their car, I tell them this is how much it's going to cost, because that's just the way it is. A farmer doesn't get to say that. A farmer goes through all the work, puts in all the investments, and then they hope the price is there. I don't know what drives that, trade, different stuff, but I know, back when that video was shot, I know of at least probably 5 local dairy farmers that have quit the dairy since then. It's going a lot more to those hog barns, like the hog barn we have. Those are still making money, it seems. So there's a lot of those around. There are a lot of people that have opinions about the type of a setting that those hogs are raised in. And I, for one, can say I would rather have them raised outdoors on a pasture, but the amount of work it takes to run an operation that way, and for the payoff, it just doesn't work.
So what's the future then?
I don't know what the future is. It just, I hear of farmers from the 50s. You know, they had 50 acres, 40 acres, a tractor, a plow, and they made it. I don't know how they made it. There's another guy I know from the local area. He bought I think it was 160 acres, 180 acre farm in the 70s or 80s, which there was a crisis in the 80s too, but he had it paid off in 10 years. And there's no way that happens anymore with the price of land. If you want to talk about how much land costs around here, it goes for $9,000 or $10,000 an acre. Now, if you multiply that, if you even buy 100 acres, if you talk about $10,000 an acre for 100 acres, that's $100,000 just for the land, no buildings. And
You know, the reality is, you know, to turn the profit with the, you know, the economics of scale, most people are in that 5,000, 8,000, you know, if they're just farming corn and soybeans, they're in that 5,000 to 8,000 acre range to turn a large profit. And that's the corporatization, Zia, that Gabriel and his family have, you know, have had to deal with. And, you know, it's economics of scale. And, you know, the margin that the farmers are left with is so small, after they pay for all their inputs, the seed, you know, all their equipment, upkeep. It's such a difficult life. But, you know, I remember some also some fun times, Gabe. I remember one time when, you know, Kevin had sold his very first steer he had ever sold to, you know, to someone who I actually knew from Iowa City from some work that I had done years earlier. A family of refugees from Kosovo who had moved to Iowa City, to Iowa, shortly after the end of the war. You guys had to kill the calf and then get it into Iowa City to AU. I remember you guys asking me to shoot the calf for you, and I, you know, you 3 boys, you guys got it figured out, didn't you?
Yep, and that's another thing on the farm. You do what you got to do. We butchered animals all the time, and life in the city just ain't like that. You go to the grocery store and you get your food, but when you're out doing it, it's gross. But you just do what you got to do to make it. And yeah, that's I actually saw him around town several years ago. That Kosovo feller. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff like that going on.
So Danny, you dived into that world. Would you care guiding us through some of the imagery from Driftless?
Yeah. And I just want to be respectful of Gabe's time with him being at work. I think we've come up just to, the
Yep.
amount of time you had.
So
And
while you do sharing, screen sharing, there's a question for Gabriel from our dear friend Maggie Stieber, fabulous photographer.
yes,
I'm gonna ask it right away. Okay, so for Gabriel, as to whether the farmers and the people in the heartland of the US are among those who feel that the government ignores them and is doing nothing for them. Do the farmers have people in Congress representing them beyond their elected officials? Are there any organizations that protect their rights?
I don't know that I completely know the answer to that question. I think that I can say we do feel underrepresented. We do have some good senators in Iowa that I feel cater to what makes our lives work. But as far as organizations, I don't know that there necessarily are. Now, I've seen that so I'm not sure what to say, but I feel like the people that try to do that don't understand what life is like out here. So I guess you would say that yes, we feel misrepresented or underrepresented.
And again, by the way, the questions keep coming for you, Gabe. So no one cares about Danny and me. Everyone, it's all about you now. So
I'll take another one.
Please do. It's a question from Jordan Gale, and he says for Gabe, do you feel a stronger pressure now versus back in the day when those images were taken? So do you feel stronger pressure now or before to rent or sell land to large-scale agricultural companies such as Monsanto, for example?
I would say yes. It's still hard to make it go. I don't know if we mentioned, but my oldest brother, is still renting the land, and I just purchased the main farm buildings. But with my parents getting older, we had to make a decision what we're going to do with the farm, and it was a hard choice to make because we could make a lot more money by selling it to the highest payer. But then we just lose everything that we have, that our life has been for. My grandma worked her tail off to build that. My parents worked their tail off, and it came down to me, and no one else wanted the place, and I couldn't let it go. So I bought it, and with that comes a lot of upkeep. The barns, those barns are expensive, and they're not really making any money. Last year, I had to put $14,000 into a new roof just for the barn. So, and I'm just supporting that with my income from, my day job. So.
yeah, I mean, that's a great question coming in, and that's the difficulty. We want these historic barns to be maintained. We, meaning just this kind of idea of what the Iowa landscape is supposed to look like, but the maintenance on those barns is so expensive, and not the barn itself not bringing revenue in, that's just money just straight out of your pocket that, but it's preserving that history for, your family, Gabe. And, I don't need to tell you this. I'm just mostly talking to Zia here. But that's the continuous economic pressure that people are facing. And then on the corporate side, they want people to face that economic pressure because then they can continue to buy land, consolidate it, and own it all. Now I'm getting a little political here, but that's the struggle, and it's it's the struggle Gabe and his family have been enduring for a long time. The farm crisis of that Gabriel referenced was when I was a teenager. My hometown, the Quad Cities area in eastern Iowa and western Illinois, lost 30,000 manufacturing jobs. These were United Auto Worker jobs at companies like John Deere, International Harvester, Case. It was 84, 85 that we lost all those jobs, but the farm crisis ended after, it of course went on longer than that, the economic impact, and you had lots of foreclosures, but it still, by the late 80s, things were better. I know there are going to be some farmers who will fight me on that, but just generally speaking, this has continued. This has just continued, this consolidation and corporatization and the difficulties that family farms, people who were on these smaller size, but able to work very hard and make enough and not have to, like Gabriel's dad, take another job off and just to be able to, and put all the dairy operation and most of the rest of the operation on his teenage. And you weren't even a teenager at the time, Gabriel.
No.
When I first started photographing. So, it's just, it's heartbreaking. But I really appreciate you being so candid, Gabriel, and letting us know that is the feeling. People don't feel heard, don't feel understood. And, and there are some, who try, wherever people are at with all that Senator Grassley does. There are definitely parts of what he does on the agricultural side that are very specific to you all.
Which I don't want to get political, but to say that a lot of this, I think, is feeding into how our country is so polarized these days. It's like the people in the rural areas, it's just not the same out here anymore. And the industrial complex and the way everything is going, it's like a whole different world, a whole different culture almost.
It really is. And I just want to, I want to thank you for coming on and speaking to everyone and sharing and being so candid with us. And I really appreciate it. I gone over. I don't want
Sure, welcome. Yeah, we've been over a little bit. If there's one more quick question I could maybe answer, and then I'll have to go.
Zia, you're muted.
Sorry. And again, thank you, Gabe, for going overboard. And
yes, sir.
Who you lived. So here's one. Actually, there's a ton. So I actually send them to later, just so you can see them. I'll send them to just to see what people are saying. And so basically, this is Matthew McCarthy, and he's asking, looking back, how did you feel about having a documentary photographer exploring the intimate parts of your family life? How did you and the family cope with, inverted commas, intrusion by someone you barely knew at the time, I mean?
Oh, I guess it it put me on edge a little bit. It was a little disconcerting, you know, kind of having my life shown to the world, but I guess I just kind of got used to it. So yeah, there was a little bit of apprehension there, but it's all right.
All right. Well, thank you, Gabe.
So,
I
all
assume
right.
I assume you have to go back to work, and everyone
Yep.
say, I'm going to clap hands for you. Thank you very much for staying with us, and have a great rest of the week. And Danny, can you share your screen now? And I'm going to throw in a question while you share the screen. Is that
Yes.
okay?
Yep.
So Tarun Mittal is asking, how did you get introduced to Gabriel's family? How did you build the friendship with the Stutzman family and tell their story while avoiding the sometimes exploiting nature of a photographer and subject relationship?
Okay, I want to make sure that I'm sharing here, and that's a great question. And am I sharing?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I'll just go ahead and hold on the cover photo here. I met Jonai and Ruby, Gabriel's parents, when I was photographing. I made reference to it when Gabriel was on. I was photographing a family of refugees who had had been relocated in Iowa City in my community, and they were from Kosovo, from Mitrovica, and I actually had returned back to Kosovo, with one of the family members, and documented them over the course of probably a year and a half, 2 years. And they had bought a calf, and I went along. They slaughtered the calf on the farm, and these kids, it was a Mennonite farm. These kids were watching, and it was, Gabriel was very, Kevin, and Carlin would have been, 4 or 5, something like that, because this was in the late 90s. So, Gabriel was a baby, and, that's, but I talked to Jonai, and he told me, 9 children, and, this is who we are, what we do. And then years later, when I was working on Driftless, one of the issues was what Tom Vilsack, our former governor and the U.S. Secretary of Ag under President Obama, called the brain drain. Most of our best and brightest were leaving the state. All these hardworking young people couldn't make a go of it in these rural communities, and I already understood Jonah had shared some of the economics of it all, and we talked about how hard it is for a family farm to be maintained. And anyway, I drove out to the farm because I knew that was something I wanted to document. I didn't know if any of the kids had planned on taking on the farm, or if it was going to be sold, like so many are. And then, these incorporated farms like buy up all that land and turn themselves into, large scale corporations, basically. I mean, they're family owned still, but they operate no different than a large scale corporation. And I just wanted to find out what was going on. So reintroduce myself, and it is, young kids having to deal with, getting up at before 5 a.m. and working like that. And then, having this guy and his, 30-year-old guy following them around, photographing everything they do. It's unbelievable when people share that way. And the trust that Gabriel's parents had for me to document, how just how hard their life was. And then I loved, partnering with Brian Storm of Media Storming, going back and letting them in their own words tell their story. And I think that's so important. Gabriel and I hadn't spoke. He reached out a couple months ago now, and I've been working outside of the state of Iowa mostly, and it was just so incredible to hear from him again. And then for him to come and candidly share that way, that's what's so special about what we get to do. When people are that willing to open up their lives, and it's for us, for the photographer, it's a gift, and you better cherish and respect that gift in every way possible, and give it everything that you can. But also to be, I think people only will respect it when it is honest, and that honesty sometimes shows difficulties. I'll tell a quick story about this and then start this photo that's up right now. This is Courtney Beecham. I photographed her and her brother and her sister out in front of their home in Conesville, Iowa, a small town. It's unincorporated, but it actually was the first community in Iowa back in the late 80s where the minority became the majority. So Latinos became the majority in the late 80s. There's another city close by that is the actual first city, West Liberty, Iowa, where that's the case. But this is an unincorporated town where that was the case in the late 80s. Courtney, I photographed her older sister had been named the Watermelon Queen at Watermelon Days in Conesville, and her older sister put the tiara on her, and then at one point I had taken a few photos, camera goes down, and then all of a sudden she's like this, and I didn't even raise the camera, I just triggered my Leica, still like just around my neck. Has that motion blur as I was moving it, and lack of focus gives it this dream quality. And Courtney, I had told the family that she was going to be on the cover. I don't know if anyone can see this, but this is Driftless. There's the cover, and I took a book down to the family before it was, as soon as Duke sent me one, and they were waiting inside, and I walked inside, and Courtney was sitting alone on a couch, and her family, her mom and dad and brother and sister, were on the couch behind. And it was kind of like this, I was presenting the book to Courtney situation, and I handed it over, and she's looking at it, and her family's like, clapping and all happy, but Courtney wasn't saying anything. And her mom said, everybody got quiet, and her mom said, "Courtney, what do you think?" And she looked up at me and she said, "It makes us look poor." And that was, that was honest. And it was, a beautiful moment. It was painful. It was painful for her. It was painful for everyone. And I felt that pain too. Years later, she contacted me, and I think she had been able to start to comprehend the hope in it, and the beauty of it, and but that's what we do. We go into these communities, and we work hard to not just connect to people to get access, but to be open and honest with all that is happening, and make sure that we do find the beauty within these situations that are otherwise very difficult. And that's important in Driftless. In the editing, I wanted to make sure that the highs were very high and the lows were very low, because that is how life in these rural areas is. One day, grain prices can be very high and you're doing well. And then the following year, you're in a drought that lasts for another, 8 years, like a ranch I've photographed up in the Badlands of South Dakota. That's why I went there. 8 years straight drought in the 2000s. And, it's a hard life, but, the beauty in this photo is just, for me, it's there. And for a young person to recognize, the hardship, but then grow to understand, the hope and the beauty. And, she now has children and, her own family. And it's just, that's beautiful to see. And when people keep in contact and let give you updates like that, that's just such a special thing.
It doesn't happen often, especially, I guess that's one of the blessings when you work within, let's say, your own community, that you actually get the feedback from the people that that the story is all about. In so many cases, for all of us who travel abroad to photograph, we rarely get that opportunity. So I think was quite a remarkable encounter, so to speak. But tell me, I'm just gonna ask one thing about two things about motivation. So why did you focus on Iowa? I mean, obviously it's your country, it's your state, it's your home state, but I'm sure there's more than that. So I'm just curious, why Driftless? Why is this? Why did you shoot this?
When
I mean, you shot so many other things. So I'm just curious, why dedicate years of your life?
This is, Driftless is this is my life. I'm from small town Iowa. I still live in a small town, but it's a university town. So, it's not really economically small town Iowa. Culturally, yeah. I mean, I get on my bike and in 2 minutes, I'm surrounded by cornfields on a gravel road. So that's very important to me, to have that. That's, my upbringing in a small Mississippi River town on the east side of the state. But why did I set out on this project? Well, I of course, as a pre-grad school and then as a grad student, I was studying what was happening in the state. I was following the trends economically and population wise. And, and this is a response to, the decline in population in our rural communities. We have these, we have what a lot of people call service centers. So communities like Des Moines, Iowa City, where I'm at, that are exploding. Cedar Rapids, Davenport, Benton, they're exploding in size because they have all the services people need. They have healthcare, they have dental. I mean, Iowa, we have the worst rate in the country for the number of dentists in rural counties per resident population of that county. So, it's like people have to move to either these satellite towns that are really close to these service centers or not. So I was studying all that academic stuff, Zia, but really where that stuff doesn't matter. Then I got rid of it all, and I just set out with one camera and one lens, and just wanted it to I just wanted to follow the story. And everything you heard in Gabriel when he was talking about, I mean, that was just so candid, and that's so hard to say. Even, now he's a young man, but to say how much that he had this, I'm not trying not to speak for him, but this love-hate relationship with his upbringing, with that dairy farm life. That's, I can speak for myself now. That's what I had as a young person growing up in a small town. Love-hate relationship. There are aspects of the lifestyle that I absolutely love. I barely photographed in my hometown. That's because of all kinds of other, reasons. There are many reasons for that. And it, there's a darkness there that is the reality of how it played out. But it's not, I'm not projecting that onto the places that I photograph. I'm able to connect with people because I endured the same economic challenges growing up through the farm crisis, all that did to my family. My father was a small business owner. All of his clients were losing their farms, and they're being foreclosed on or losing their jobs because of all the factories closing, and and then just everything else with just feeling trapped in that kind of community, and there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of, so yeah, that's where the connection to people comes from. It's not judgment, stuff where people are partying out of control, at a notorious party spot called Jumping Rock. That's not judgment. That's, yeah, is it illegal behavior? No, furthest thing from it. But that doesn't matter to me, because, I was going through all those same issues as, someone in my early 20s. Even though I went off to university, I still was, most of the time back home, and with all my friends who did not go off to college, and living that same life on the weekend. And so that's where it comes from. That was a really long-winded answer to what.
No, well, it's complex. It's complex. And so when you started, if I'm not mistaken, you processed all this film by yourself, right? It's a technical.
Yeah, I mean, it's all on film, and it was done in my home. I did not process it myself. That mostly was Patrick Reed. Robin Sveck was another assistant. The two of them did. It was mostly Patrick. Patrick processed. I mean, I'm staring at a wall of boxes of negatives. He processed the vast majority of the film for the book.
So when you went out to photograph Iowa, did you set out with the idea of making a book, or that came later?
No, I wanted to. I said from day one that I was doing a photography book. I didn't want to tell anyone that it was, while the work is run in many magazines and been exhibited, I had a goal of doing a book, and I wasn't going into that naively. I knew how much of a monumental task that it just a mountain to overcome. But that's how I wanted the work to first be presented. And it really is. It's, Mother Jones, my good friend and editor, Mark Merman, was, the first to publish it as, in long form in a publication. And, that was so important for it to get out to, the masses that way. And then partnering with Media Storm and was just even further reach for the work. And that's what it's all about. Like, for me is, I don't make work to put in boxes and hide away. I want my work to be out in the world and to have impact. And in this case, I want people to contemplate, a life that is often romanticized on in theater and or in movies and on canvas and paintings, etc. Postcards. I want to move us away from that, and I want people to hear Gabriel's words.
So
I don't really want them to hear my statement is the book. That's and that's everything I have to say.
So hold that thought. So so here we are in digital age, and where everything is instantaneous, everything is in pixels, everything is on screen. So why do we make books? Why do you make books? Why books as a medium? I ask everyone this. It's my personal research. So yeah, why make books when everything is so virtual and so up in the cloud, literally?
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know why the connection. I was going to continue to as I answered that, go through, but it seems, I don't know. It's locked up. Can you guys see that, Gianna?
Yeah, we
Sorry,
see that. Yeah,
everyone.
we see the screen. We see the screen. It's okay. We see
Just
the.
take it up to the opening photo. I mean, why the book? I think the book is I'll only speak about, for myself. It's the foundation that I've been able to build everything else off of. Without a strong foundation, then how are you gonna build up on that? And I think Driftless, and then a book can take on a life of its own. That's what I love about Driftless and all aspects of it. How it's really just become separate from me and continues to inspire and questions and I hope force people to think about this rural urban divide, not in such divisive ways, to think about it in ways of finding unity. I remember speaking to a young man on another book project in Nebraska, and he's like, and Nebraska is one of the most conservative states. We go red and blue because we're a terrible two-party system in the United States. He's like, I've never met a Democrat. This is a young man in his 20s who was a ranch hand with a young child, his wife a social worker, and he he's like, Democrats never come to my community, my county, and spoke. And how could I know what their ideas are? How could I know what anything other than what I'm fed by Republican candidates and the Republican Party here in Nebraska, have to say? He's like, there's no way for me to know. And and that's one of the problems with everything being so decisive is we don't listen to each other anymore. We don't have and there's a lot of great reason for some of that. I mean, what is there, in regard to, just all out hate? What is there, to interact with? But that, we still have to find where there's that commonality within, groups that are outside of those most fringe of players in this political divide in the United States. That is not everyone. It's, it is definitely a percentage of the population, and we're dealing with all of that, at present in the country. But I hope we can. I don't. Yeah. I hope that answers.
There is another question from our viewers. It says, I'm trying to link your image of rural Iowa with what we hear with what we hear here. The person is from Switzerland, about political events in the USA, elections, true and fake news. There is certainly poverty, but I don't see despair in the pictures, but a lot of joy. So are these grounds for Trump's fake news? Areas like these, I assume.
I the part of that question that's more important is within, are we able to just get this off the spinning wheel of death?
Let me try to do it from here. Just give me a second. Okay, so you stopped sharing. Okay. So if you want to share it again, just share it again.
Okay. Will it work?
Yeah, it must work. Yep. Seems to be working. Oops. Yeah. So now you can just go to the slide you want to show.
I'm just all locked up. So can you just scroll through if you're?
I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid I can't.
I'm sorry, everyone. This is the kind of stuff.
Don't worry. Don't worry. If you want, close your just close your presentation, stop sharing, close presentation, and then just reopen it again. Okay? Yeah, just close your keynote and open it again. While you're doing that, let me just quickly go through questions.
Okay.
People, just a second for patient. It's actually surprising that we're getting people, for example, from Ohio, Lisa Di Giacomo, saying, I understand, Gabriel, I'm in the same position here in Ohio. And then there is a person from Yorkshire, Nick Goring, who's saying, I'm watching this from rural Yorkshire. The story is the same here. The challenge of maintaining the culture and history of not just farming families, but the soul of the county. I suspect it resonates around the world, and why Denny's work does too. It's an allegory for the times. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, right there's testimony coming from people on the front lines of this, and you know, it's a lot of there's limited coverage of this. That's one of the reasons, Zia, why, you know, I wanted to do a book, because I knew, you know, if I just went around knocking and I want to do an essay on this or an essay on this, and I would get a little bit of, you know, you get a certain percentage of hits where people are like, yes, we'll send you on that story, we'll pay for it. I knew if I could, you know, in the University of Iowa, I did the majority of the book when I was a grad student. They helped fund this. So I had this, you know, the state institution, you know, higher ed research institution, you know, backing the work. So I was able just to go out and concentrate on the story, concentrate on people's lives, and doing the best that I could to, you know, honestly, you know, tell their stories. And I, you know, I knew that the book would, you know, if I could pull it off, which, you know, I had a lot of help. The Center for Documentary Studies, winning the first book prize there at Duke, all the incredible people I got to work with there, Alexa Dilworth, working with Yolanda Cuomo, as you know, who designed the book. You know, I mean, I was really fortunate, very lucky. But I knew that if I did a book, that then there was going to be coverage of that, at least locally. I didn't think nationally or internationally, but there has been, and that's a great thing. You know, again, very lucky. But I knew at least locally, if I did a book, you know, the conversation would be happening locally. And you know, I did a reading at Prairie Lights, which is, you know, the famous bookstore here in Iowa City. We have at the University of Iowa the creative writing program, the Iowa Writers Workshop, world renowned. You know, this is a place where, you know, we had standing room only. We had people outside listening, and you know, it was incredible, the conversation that people wanted to have, and you know, that continued. You know, being young and kind of just starting my freelance career, unfortunately, I didn't take that into the rural communities enough, and I'm correcting that now with the work that I'm doing. I'm taking the work actually into the small towns, and you know, we all have to learn as we you know, grow in this. I found myself, you know, all of a sudden being assigned stuff and being on the road nonstop, and pulled away from my documentary work for some years. And after a couple of years of that, I then just dove back into it, because I was like, this isn't the career I want to have. This isn't what I set out to do. I love doing that work, and I learned so much, but it you know, had pulled me away from, you know, the next body of work that I had already started when the documentary came out.
So we have time for one more question, and it's again from our Maggie Stever, our own Maggie, and she's asking, will Danny do another book showing his heartland again? Is he working on another one? Seems it is very important time for him to be working on it.
Yeah, I am. And the photographing for the book is supposed to be done. My wife continuously tells me that time to wrap it up. It's been now over a decade. And, I've been since 2008 working on something that a working title, it's probably not the title, but Lost Nation is a body of work where I've been looking at the Great Plains, the Midwest, and all these same issues and beyond the issues that are presented here in Iowa with Driftless. And I've continued to photograph for that because a dear friend of mine passed away. He took his life a little over a year ago now, and I felt it was his ranch. John Newman, he's a huge part of this next body of work, and he left behind a significant other and son, and Tabitha and John have a son together, Stetson, and I'm continuing to photograph on the ranch. But the question's right. It's Maggie is spot on. It's time for that work to be part of the conversation of what is this divide? What is the lack of understanding between the two? And you can't have that if you don't have, I think, these emotional stories, these stories that come from this, the connection by whatever, photographer, or not, they without that, then we don't feel an emotional connection to the stories we're being told. Things are just statistics. We just hear about foreclosure or loss of family farm, or the amount of hours, et cetera, et cetera. We need to be close to people, and that's what we all do. That's what Maggie's incredible and has done her entire career. And so many other, some young photographers who, asked questions earlier, who, they're doing the same thing, and, it's needed. It's all really needed. So.
Well, thank you, Danny. Thanks, everyone. We didn't really get to answer all of the questions, and we're sorry for that, but we tried to do our best. Everyone, thank you very much for tuning in. Again, have a look at our new website. There is a lot of new content. So make sure to sign up for it all, because, well, I'm not missing any of these, so I urge you not to do that as well. And Danny, thank you very much for your time. Please say hi to Gabriel when you get to talk to him again. And everyone, thank you very much, and stay safe. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Zia. Thanks, everyone.